Yo, 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 yo. Good morning, everybody. Morning, Will, Igor, Oki, Silent, Martin, Simo. Good morning. How you guys doing? I want to make sure my audio... There it is. Simo, you're welcome, brother. Thank you. Islam, Pa, Accidental, Tal, what up? If you guys can like the video, I'd really appreciate it. Yo, WMG, what's up, brother? I hope you're good too, man. Been a long time. Glenn, good morning. Yeah, it looks like we're having a lot of movement going into this morning's session. If we can get this at 50 likes, we'll start this thing right off the bat, right? Or 25 more. Glenn, I really, really appreciate that. It's been the aim, at least. Sarah, I don't know if I said good morning to you. Good morning. I appreciate it, Glenn, very much. Thank you. Well, Med, what's up? All right, let's get into it. Yeah. If you're just tuning in, please, I do appreciate when you guys like the video. If you can remind the chat, those who are in the chat, to like the video, that way I don't have to constantly do it. I would appreciate it as well. Let's get into today and what we're looking at. It's a little bit of a interesting price action, to say the least. So if you watched last night's day log or just been following along this week as far as what we've been looking at, from the weekly forecast, we were looking at lower prices ultimately. And off of yesterday's closure, I thought that we for sure could continue that into possibly today. Usually, if you had to think about the weekly template or the weekly candlestick play out, usually the low of the week or whatever you're looking for, the expansion part, that typically doesn't happen on a Friday. So looking at today, expecting lower prices to completely fill that out, I kind of had a concern about it. So I don't think anything is completely invalidated as terms of lower prices, but This push higher, we're going to have to see how that is treated this morning session. It is a Friday, so the classic idea on a Friday when you go into it is looking at what we call TJF, which is a model coined by ICT that you're looking for. If you look at your weekly candlestick, you're looking for, if it's been in one direction, you're looking for 20 to 30% retracement back into the weekly range. So I think this week's been a little bit, I mean, it has been bullish primarily the entirety of the week, but it hasn't been like completely just flat out one direction the whole week. We've had some retracements, we've had some up and downs. So we'll kind of gauge how I want to trade that. Excuse me, I have something in my eye. If you go into your fib settings, I'm not going to do it, but you can just plot 20 to 30%, and then you're going to plot it from the lowest low to the current high of the week. And I mean, we could see a retracement into 20 to 30%. But I ultimately do believe that this is an example of high resistance on a higher time frame. And this is probably harder for some people to understand, but on lower time frames, it may be easier to spot that, but on a higher time frame, it may be a little bit harder because it feels like, on a higher time frame, it should respect it right away. But if you're looking at, again, this is your dealing range here, we're coming back up inside of a premium. The bearish order block is here. All we could be doing is just taking out yesterday's high. Anybody who's short, post that news event drive or whatever it may be, is now taken out of the market. And do we drop it again? I mean, it wouldn't be a major drop, but I believe that going into next week, we could possibly see continuation lower. Or things outright reverse. If I see something to where the narrative or the bias is flipping to what I was originally thinking, then I have to go back out to some other things, which would be dollar index, and I have to look at it and say, okay, well, has anything changed with dollar index? Has anything changed with bonds, with yields, with foreign exchange? Is there an SMT on the higher time frame between ES and IQ that I maybe didn't pick up on? If nothing has changed, then again, it's just price either being high resistance, returning to a certain area again. And right now, I don't see anything changing. Dollar index is still bullish. If dollar index is still bullish to me, then I have to expect lower prices in IQ. If you look at the daily time frame on dollar index, all we did was just drop right back down into this inefficiency, which is here, and into this down close candle. So we're dropping down into that, and that should do what? Give relief for at least an expansion higher. If you go over to bonds and yields, we've had a little bit of a bounce on bonds, and I'm not primarily too concerned overly with bonds and yields, but it's a good confluence. These are still primarily lower. Yields are still primarily higher. Has this week been down? Yes. But it's not something where every little tick on bonds and yields am I paying attention to. Foreign exchange, especially EU, you want to pay attention to primarily as well. But this is still lower. So nothing has really changed, and even when I look at NQ, technically nothing's changed. That's why I'm saying this is, looking at this, nothing's really changed too much. We're just returning back into this. So we'll see how we treat that today. I mean, I'm not going to be shorting it where we're at in here, but that's my idea going into the session. If I see lower prices and I get a model that wants to go short, then I would probably do it, because I understand that everything's still primarily bearish. Not too concerned with what's going on in here. Again, we're returning into this sell side imbalance on the 4-hour chart, which is your premium. Look to the left of you. Inside of that, that would be in your inversion. Extend that to your right. We're just driving up into that right before the open, which is interesting to say the least. I think a lot of people are, either this is an outright reversal or people are getting really trapped pre-open and they're going to be caught really trying to push this thing long. I talked about last night in depth about this discount here. I think some people don't pay attention to this, and this goes for any time frame. But if you're in an overall narrative and you're expecting a certain price swing, so from this dealing range high to low, that's your bearish dealing range. This dealing range from here, because this is where the move originated from, here to here, this is your retracement leg. So we're retracing into your retracement leg's discount. If this was to outright reverse, and go back to the daily log last night, if this was to outright reverse, then it would utilize this discount to send it higher above that high. But if you're not biased on that, then you don't need to worry about, well, the only thing I would be concerned when it gets down into there is watching for reactions or short-term retracements. You want to be looking for, just that idea. You want to be aware of it. So we're about 2 minutes until the open. We'll watch lower time frames and see how we open. If you go out to your hourly, which is over here, and this premium imbalance. If we close above this in the 4 hour, that's kind of where I would say, okay, well, if we close above those, then it's no longer respecting bearish order flow or bearish PD raise. So then we should be looking for probably the highs to be taken. At that point, that kind of invalidates the idea, right? And that's where you have to put it aside and say, look, well, it's no longer looking for lower prices, so I have to look for higher, right? I'm not going to keep married to a bias. If it's not willing to do it, then it's not willing to do it. So if we close above this, then I'm going to be looking for these highs here to be traded to possibly today. Make sense? Members of Body, what's up? Crazy Eddie, what's up? Fasa, Sam, Joshua asks, can you tell me about ICT-OT? I'm a little confused on that. You'll see me using it, but you're just looking at swing highs and swing lows, and if price comes into 71% or 62, that's a good area for price to reverse. It's like a sweet spot. If you're just tuning in, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video. If we can get this to 100 likes, I'd really, really appreciate it. Are you really a student of ICT? I don't know what that particularly means. Are you talking about a private student? Or was a private student charter? Yes. Let's look at your midnight open and your 8:30 open. So these should pop on the screen here in a second. So midnight opens here, 8:30 opens here. Since we've drove up above midnight open, that's doing what? That's pushing price inside of a deep premium, which favors what type of bias? That would favor shorts ultimately. If price is inside of a premium, you want to be shorting it. Now, of course, it has to be aligned with certain confluences, and you have to understand where the narrative is and the bias. But if price is going to react off of that hourly imbalance, the 4 hour imbalance, we never close above it, then price is simply doing this massive Judah swing before the open, taking out buy side liquidity, running above midnight open, setting the high of the day/week, and setting itself inside of a high premium. And guess what it does? It dumps it. So this type of move, I'm not particularly too concerned about or overly worried. Remember, pay attention to your higher time frames. Look at your hourly chart. Look at your 4 hour right now. How are we going to close in 30 minutes? How do you think we're going to close? Pay attention to those. I don't know, mate, you look like my passed away big brother just watching or talking. Alright, brother, I appreciate you. So, hope that makes sense. When you're framing a day and you're looking at things, like, you should come into a day like this and be looking at all those objectives. if I took my camera and I flipped it to this up screen, I'm looking at a 4-hour chart and I'm looking at a 1 hour, and I'm looking at the exact areas that we just mentioned, and I'm also looking at the lower time frame, which would be like a 1 minute time frame, a 5 minute time frame. I'm looking at all those together. Then I'm going over to my S&P chart, which is to the right here, and I'm looking at the correlation between them. So all these things are very important. Would I be trying to engage with this off rip? No. I would, again, my rules are really waiting for the macro / silver bullet. And let's time do the work for me. I don't make a whole bunch of mistakes off the first 15, 20 minutes of the opening range. I would rather just let it be. Your parent time frames, which are the daily, the 4-hour, the hourly, if all of those have areas of interest and are inside of a, let's say in this instance, a premium, then that's a really good sign for a semi-large move to unfold. It is a Friday, so we have to be aware of that. I'm not expecting, some type of weekly expansion, but I'm not fooled by any of this. I believe we're going to see lower prices. That's ultimately what I believe. I think that's what we're going to see today. And if we don't, we'll figure that out. Opening range gap is here. So that's another confluence with a bearish bias. Do you see what I'm building? What I built up this whole morning? Just a bearish bias. I have not built up. I built up an opposing one. If price gets above the hourly or 4-hour imbalances, then I would have to switch to a bullish bias, and I probably wouldn't end up doing anything with price anyways. But there's a lot of things that favor lower prices, a whole lot. Daily time frame bearish order block, 4-hour premium imbalance, 1-hour premium imbalance. You have the intermarket relationships agreeing. You have above midnight open inside of a deep premium. You've taken out buy side liquidity from overnight. You have opening range gap, which is beneath you, that you can look to fill in as a target. When people talk about models, I don't care about models. I'm caring about confluences. As many as I can just stack in my corner as possible. That's good. You throw S&T in there as well, which I would have to look on lower time frames if there is. There isn't really on the hourly. You start throwing more and more confluences. It's just like throwing wood onto a fire. The more you have, the bigger it's going to get, the better the probabilities of it playing out is probably going to be, right? If you just look at a chart and say, well, there's just a fair value gap, and it's within the silver bullet. Well, there's thousands of fair value gaps on a 1-minute chart during the silver bullet. If you don't know why the framework as to why that should be working, then obviously you probably end up getting stopped out or not understanding why it's doing what it's doing. Jafar, what's up? Ali, I just don't want to move my camera. It's in a good position. You guys can please like the video. I'd really appreciate it, man. If we can get to 100 likes, I'll probably stop asking. So this is where my focus is really at currently. I'm not really looking at it 1 minute. I'm looking at the structure and what we're doing, but we're paying attention to this, right? Paying attention to this. We're paying attention to the 4-hour. We still have 23 minutes left on the board. This thing could really suck right back down on the range. Remember the daily chart? Stabbing right up into the mean threshold of that bearish order block there. I'm not fooled by this. This is, to me, that's... We're going to see lower prices. Now, do I believe that we're just going to see a straight drop lower? Might be a couple of things in there that might give you problematic price action, to be honest. We've had such a straight run higher, unless we just really want to fall off here. I do have the previous new week opening gaps on. I'm not going to keep them here. It's a little bit too much. But you can keep them on another chart. And if you feel some type of emotion, like, let's say it's like, well, man, I have all this, confluences and this bias, and, what happens if I miss the top of this move? Like, this is going to be the top of the move, and I'm not going to be a part of it, and I knew it was going to happen. My rules tell me to wait for the silver bullet. To me, that is the biggest character builder, is waiting for the silver bullet and forcing yourself to sit through the first 30 minutes. I did that all basically last year through the 6 months, at least a few months I was live streaming. It's like I'd sit during the opening range and watch a lot of things play out, because that type of discipline creates a lot of patience, and it allows you to say, look, I have rules for a reason. I'm going to stand on this side of the curve and just say I'm not going to trade regardless of how much I believe price is going to do something. Am I going to miss moves at times? Yes. If you didn't watch last night's video, and I guarantee it has such little views, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and stroke my own ego. But if you watch the things that I post, man, it's even the private group that I had last year. Variables and probabilities are such a huge factor into our trading, man. And if you really focus on that, I think it would ease a lot of people's brains. Thank you, Oki. Yes, it's one of the things that I wish I knew when I was a little bit younger. It's a lot of variables, a lot of probabilities, and putting yourself, again, if you have to compare this to something, compare it to gambling, man. I know people don't want to hear that, but if you look at professional poker players or blackjack players, whatever it may be, they focus a lot of variance, a lot of probabilities. And if you're able to put that variance and those probabilities in your favor, that is your strength, and not putting it in a house's favor. Is there any SMT at the top? There is not. And sometimes there isn't. You don't always need SMT. Jacob, exactly, yeah. I think as a newer student, you probably won't understand that last night's video. If you're like more seasoned and you've been through a lot of hardships and adversities, you'll probably understand that. You've been through like the trenches and really thug this shit out. It's, that type of shit is where you need that type of advice. And I need to say it for myself as well. Otherwise, most people are just looking for the technicals. How do I enter in the market and all this? I mean, that stuff's cool, but you'll reach a certain point where you understand that's the least of importance. Glenn, trading is 100% the same as poker. Wait until you have a premium hand before you enter a pot and then manage the risk after. Exactly. Yeah, it's a good confluence, but price can still drop without S&T there. I mean, it would be nice to have, but I don't see any. But does that completely disregard all the things I was looking at? No. If you guys can get this to 100 likes, we're at 91. Fantastic. I legit sat forward testing a short that would have made me 1K, but it isn't my rule, so I didn't take it. It's good, man. That's discipline. A lot of things are uncomfortable when it comes to rules and discipline, and it feels like you're doing things backwards or wrong. this game is very backwards to a lot of things we're used to in real life. It's not trading is making progression. Sometimes trading is not making progression. You're pushing too hard. Compared to the real life, usually most real life situations, jobs, whatever it may be, if you push really, really hard, you probably end up with a lot of results. But in this game, it's the opposite. So for people like me who are very competitive and really, I like it. The more effort you put into it, the more results you should, hopefully expect out of it. It doesn't work like that to a certain extent, but not really. Joe PLA, last night's video, on my YouTube channel. If price on the 4 hour will close above 21.40, it will form a bullish OB. Would you still try to short then? Because I'm trusting the higher time frame, the parent time frame structure, which is like the daily, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, into my relationships over that. And I doubt we'll close above it. Zahid, what up? Fly, I don't know why the message either. My Nightbot, you retracted it. Remember, this is your opening range gap here. Quite large, very large. So I like having this fib on where you have 25, 50, 75 with a opening range gap when it's that large. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. Fly, I got you. Accidental, I agree. It's a little bit odd. What's your advice you would give on confidence in hard times? Even in the past, you showed yourself you're profitable now in a losing streak. That's a really good question, and that's where, even for me, I reach back in my memory bank, and if you don't have these accomplishments yet, then it's a little bit harder at times because you don't really know where to reach for. But even for me, recently, I achieved a live account with My Funded Futures where it was 30 days of $300 days across 3 accounts. That's not an easy task. It was one of the most difficult challenges I've ever had to really accomplish. So if I go into a losing streak or I lose a couple, I can reach back on the memory bank, and even during those accounts I went through drawdown with them, and I was able to pull myself out of drawdown with them. I'm able to reach back in the memory bank and go, look, man, this is normal. We've been through this before. We'll get out of the same trench before. That I've gone into drawdown. I've had losing streaks. I've felt the same way before. Guess what? If I just maintain the same thing as I've been doing, everything's going to turn out fine. Even looking back on payouts and the money that I've made, to look at that and say, look, even when I go through losing streaks and periods, because you will, it's normal, you have to remain calm. You have to have, I'm looking for the word, composure. Have composure. Look back in your journal. That's why we journal winning trades and we journal the things that we do well, because if we're able to go back into that, it's not like you're trying to hype yourself up, but it's to remind yourself. Nobody else is going to be your coach here. Nobody else is going to tell you you're doing a good job. Nobody tells you you're a good trader. Your mom's not going to tell you, your dad, your friends, nobody's going to tell you that. Even on social media, me live streaming, people are going to hate on me and comment. I rely on myself, and I go back into my memory bank, and I'm able to pull that out and say, look, I'm a badass trader. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I can do anything I want in this market. As long as I follow my strategy, I do the things I'm supposed to be doing. Where did you end up going to dinner last night, girlfriend? We got some Mexican food. Hopefully that answers your question, Gabriel. Thank you, Igor. So what am I doing currently? I'm just kind of waiting for time, really. And this run up here was a little bit suspect prior to the open, where we've had this massive run higher. So to expect another massive leg lower, I mean, it can happen, but I'm a little weary of that. The framework's right, but the delivery is a little weird. So I want to see if, whether we start slowly just drooping lower. And if we do, then I can possibly enter into a short. Sloth, no, because I framed everything kind of. If you're ever wondering like what my bias is, go back to the beginning of like each live stream right before the open or right during the open. That's usually where I'm framing my idea for the day. I know a lot of people ask me in the session, what am I looking at? Unless something majorly changes, then usually I'm going with what I'm looking at in the open. So we're about to go into the macro and we'll see what that provides. We have ES trading a little bit higher. Pay attention to that. A little bit disconnected. Just marking out a few areas. Give me fuel, give me fire, which I desire. All right. If you look in here, we're right inside of this. I don't like to have it on. I have it on my other monitor, but this is your previous new week opening gap we're dropping down into. If you look at ES, it's a little bit higher. So either it's trying to create an SMT in here, or it's going to start leading this potentially higher. On the 1 minute, we're inside the first presented FEG. If you're just tuning in, if you can like the video, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And this is what I mean by like the first 30 minutes. It alleviates a lot of worries. Like, I don't really care what it's trying to do in here. I have a certain idea for the day. I can see where it could become invalidated or if something must have switched. But usually the first 30 minutes, especially if we've had a large range prior to the open, it's going to be a little funky. It's going to be a little weird. So it's best to just give it time. Allow time to be your ally and just sit and be patient with it. You're not going to miss anything. Your whole career is not going to go out the window if you just sit for 30 minutes. but if I don't pick this low in here, then I'm going to miss the whole move higher. And if I don't short it in here, then I'm going to miss... No, you're not. Like, these are all thoughts. If I ever speak like that, those are the stupid thoughts that I have to counter. And I'm sure everybody else has the same similar thoughts. That's all the doubt and fear that we have. You have to counter it, which I usually jokingly say it. What I'd watch in here is, if you're watching ES, I'd watch is if ES or if NQ trades kind of back up inside of this premium here. So from this dealing range, high to low, I'm going to go main fib here. If NQ trades up inside of this premium, ES would be above this high here, which would create a bearish SMT. So I'm curious to see what the reaction is like at that point. What's this formation right there? That would be your bearish breaker there. Now we don't have to trade back up in the area. If we're really looking to seek lower prices today, then this bearish order block is all we'll utilize. But I'm stating, if we get inside of that area up here and ES is above that high, there's a bearish SMT, that would probably be a decent opportunity. But we could just react off of this bearish order block and send it lower. So we have to react with whatever price is giving us. Wizzy, what up? About 275 of you guys in here. If you could like the video, if you're just tuning in, appreciate it. Welcome if you're new. What's the vibe looking like? Vibe's always good. How about you, brother? Danny, what up? Eyeballs hurt. Let's go out to the hourly just so you can have an idea once this closes. Once we close in here, there's going to be a buy side imbalance that gets created. So about 3 minutes or so. Even if, let's say, you're biased into higher prices, you could still short if you don't trust overall shorts today. You can still short into that buy side imbalance and then see the reaction off of that. Because if this thing was to go higher, it would be nice to see her drop into that, whether it's an IOFVD or a deeper retracement into that, and then send it higher. So just keep note of that. 15 minute, you have a bearish order block here, but we have a couple of things, inversion, previous new week opening gaps there. Just being patient with this, since we've had such a large movement prior to the open. That's where you kind of want to chill out. You don't want to be pushing that into the open. But shouldn't the 1 hour new buy side be left open as a breakaway gap because there's already a 1 hour? I mean, breakaway gaps are very subjective at times. It just kind of depends. I mean, there's no really particular rules. But it is a possibility, yes. What was the moment or realization that took you to profitable level? I don't think that I got this question a lot. I don't think there's a particular one. I think it's a built-up collection of moments and trials and tribulations, to be honest with you. Like, I was looking for that as well. I was like, well, if I just have that one moment, that one realization, that one change, then, I'll be profitable. It doesn't work like that. It's a combination and a collection of a lot of things that you go through that you end up being profitable. I mean, that's a battle, man. It's not like, you just end up there and you're forever. So you have to fight for it every single day. You have to fight for consistent profitability. It's, you have to really want it every single day. John, too much uncertainty. I think I'm out. Going to observe. All right, brother. I stated this last year, Danny. I don't know if you care, but even Wazy, if you guys want good people to observe, people that know what they're talking about, Razy and Danny in the chat, they're both very exceptional traders. So I'm sure they can link their Twitter in the chat. Great people. People that have been in the grind, been in the trenches for a long time, man. All right, let me focus here for a second as we get into the silver bullet. I'll get to all the comments and stuff after. So I'm going to be paying attention to hourly closure in here. So we've gotten underneath the first presented FEG. There's a small sell side imbalance. Now this could just be taking out the low in here where we end up sending it higher. We have SMT between ES and NQ. ES failed to make a lower low. So look at, to me this is my semi-confirmation where I'm really standing on lower prices. I'm going to stand on that idea. Since we've gone up into this daily time frame bearish order block, which is the side of premium, we've already traded to that. The 4 hour time frame, look at the reaction away from that sell side imbalance, the inversion that's in there. Your hourly chart, the reaction away from that premium sell side imbalance. We've taken buy side from yesterday. We still have the opening range gap, which is beneath us. So to me, there's a good amount of confluences for lower prices. I also don't really expect, technically that is the high of the week right there. Will there be a new high of the week set? I don't know. We could also, honestly, at this point, you could throw TJF inside of the equation as far as lower prices. So I'm really just waiting for an opportunity that would favor me to get into the market. I have an idea as far as bearish prices. If I don't see anything, then I'm probably not going to execute on it. I really just can't see higher prices out of today. I mean, if it does and I see something where I have to switch, then I would do it. Much preferring holding for the daily range these days. I got you, Danny. I'm watching his ES. It's a bit disconnected currently, so I just want to see if it's trying to print an S&T or it's trying to lead ES or NQ. Looks like there's about 300 of you guys in here. If you could like the video, get it to 150 likes, I'd appreciate it. WMG. Yeah. I mean, this is just me personally. I like to have everything connected to each other. I mean, I know some people, as far as their funded accounts and their personal, or even with funded accounts that have multiple of them, some people like to just trade one at a time. But for me, I mean, you might as well copy trade all of them and just combine it into a very large account. I just don't see the point. And I mean, some people have different personality types where they want to gamble one, or they want to over leverage on one, or they want to be more strict on one. I mean, for me personally, the funded account, I would just combine them all and just copy trade them. And then you have a weekly and a monthly percentage goal that you want to go for, and you withdraw and you get the payout and you bounce. I'm still going to be observing ES. If ES gets above its high at like 660.35, I'm going to see if there's an S&P that's created. Because at that point, NQ would be up here. Phil, yeah, it's very well justifiable. Can you explain SMT? I have a video on my channel. It's probably in the beginner videos, probably like last year. It solely goes over SMT. So what is this? If we're tape reading NQ, what's this up close candle here? Nikki, correct. That is your bullish breaker there. So the low, high, lower low, then you have your higher high here. So it's always your highest up close candle. This is the highest up close candle from that low to that high. $15-minute time frame, we've stabbed up into this sell side imbalance. Read my mind, Igor. Yeah, I mean, even though there's a breaker potentially here in this inefficient, I don't favor longs, so I'm just standing on the idea of I'm not looking for longs, and if I miss the move, then I don't care. I also know if it sent it higher from here, and I could get a little bit more confirmation of higher prices, then I could still long it. Things I went over pre-market, pre-open, favor shorts, so I have to stand with it. And that's what we're seeing that kind of fail. I mean, I just don't favor it. I also think it's a bit sloppy in here. Which I can leave it on, actually. So we're back inside of the first presented FEG and inside of that breaker. So we just stabbed in the mean threshold. So within that breaker, you have the first presented FEG. You'll extend to your right. The down close candle here would be your bullish order block. So we'll see the reaction off of it. I think ES looks a bit ugly as well. Keeps printing higher highs, which is creating a weird kind of disconnect between the two. I think it's way higher than where NQ's at. So since we've traded through that breaker, that's to me completely invalidates any higher prices currently. I mean, we could reject off the first presented, but the way we're really not respecting, I mean, it could be a lot deeper retracement, but if we get underneath the first presented, then that would really invalidate it. If you're just tuning in, if you haven't already liked the video, much appreciated. Well, it's a lot to have on the chart, but it's like directly where those inversions are. The previous new week opening gap is right there as well. So we're kind of just stuck in between those two. Kevin, what's up? Long time no see. Alexandro. Yep. To me, to be trying to force an idea in here is, like, do I see a potential bullish model? Yes. But if anything, if it leaves that breaker in the first presented FEG and it sends it higher, I could still be willing to get in the market. I'm not going to miss, a whole lot. Alejandro, are you watching the stock heat map for gauge on? No. Kevin, yeah. Kevin B, yeah, I just plotted those on. Just a little much to have on my chart. You'd have to remember that it is still January, and we are coming into, like, where Trump's about to become president, could stir things up. I mean, typically you don't really want to be trading until at least February. I mean, this is better price action I've seen in January than prior years. I mean, this is way better. You think this is bad? This ain't bad at all. I've seen ES sit in the 5-point range all day, didn't even move. Nothing. So this may, for some people, if you're trying to decide, like, well, should I go long or should I trust my bias? Should I go long or should I trust my bias? I mean, if you're bias short, you can maybe in a situation like, well, I could see where it could send it higher. Those emotions, obviously, you have to understand that your emotions are always going to fluctuate every single day. But if you have a model and you have a framework for the day, you have to have enough discipline to say, look, I don't care what it does. Even if it moves, my life's not going to end. If I miss a trade, I miss a movement, I can still get back in the market if I'd like. If my bias switches, then I can still switch my bias. These are things you need to be saying out loud to yourself, not just thinking them, saying them out loud, having sticky notes, having things that are in front of you, because while you're watching these candlesticks tick by tick and they start to accumulate these emotions and these thoughts and they start to, like, spool up, that's when you end up making, stupid decisions. You're like, just screw it, man. Like, I'm going long because it's based off a feeling. Right? But my bias and what I'm looking at today so far has told me to go short, and nothing's switched. Nothing has told me drastically, change-wise, to go long. Do I see a model to go long? Sure. Do I see that's reacting off of this and it could send it higher? Sure. But I have to be willing to sit on that side, and if it goes higher, then it is what it is. It doesn't mean I'm an idiot. Because if it ends up going lower, I would feel much, much better with myself. I'd be like, wow, good job. I sat still. I didn't fall into that trap of, trying to go long. That's me personally. I'm not saying anybody that is stupid. I'm just saying it's me. I have to trust myself. And even if it goes higher, I don't beat myself up. I don't say, well, you're an idiot. Why didn't I do that? I say, no, good job. I trusted what I was thinking, and ultimately the market didn't deliver it. What is that? That's just variance and probabilities. On another day where you did the exact same, discipline, you had a bias, you stayed calm, then it protected you from a potential loss. This is why variables and probabilities are always, you don't see these things, but it's so much interchangeable in terms of, like, our discipline and our rules. Like, one day you're gonna follow it and it's gonna work out perfectly, and one day it may not work out perfectly. But you have to remind yourself these are always interchangeable. They're always, the variables and the environment's always going to keep changing every single day. if you haven't, I would watch last night's video, man. It is like, to me, when you think about psychology in this game, it's so much variance based. Phil, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a financial battlefield. It's a psychological battlefield. It's a whole mind illusion. There's so much mind illusion, and you have to kind of like, dude, you're like in the Matrix at times. Like, you're fighting all of your doubts, your insecurities, your fears, and you just have to stay focused on your model and on your strategy and the things that you know you have control over. You have control over some variance. You have control over your risk management. You have control over how well you execute your model. You have control over how well you preparation for the day. You have control over journaling and making adjustments and changes. Those are things you can control. But I can't control, at times of losses and wins. At times, even within these concepts, it just is what it is. You just have to choke on the loss, choke on the win, or whatever it may be, and move on with it. You have to choke on missing out on a move, choke on being disciplined. Discipline is not a good feeling. People think discipline's like this happy, good feeling. No, discipline sucks at times. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun. You have to sit out of moves. You're not a part of moves. Like, if this thing goes higher, you're like, oh, motherfucker, why didn't I do that? I could see, no. You have to reward yourself. Look, I did a good job, man. Even though it's a painful feeling, it's not a good, happy, good feeling. It's a productive movement. Does Forex work? Yeah, that's where I started. I started in Forex. My first 2 years or 3 years, maybe even 4 years, I was trading Forex. That's how I know. That's a younger student. I mean, ICT was primarily Forex when he first was on YouTube. Really hurts when you see a 6-hour trade and you miss it. Well, I would say sometimes, there's either missing it or, something told you to stay out. And again, that's the same thing here. Like, I have a bias and things are telling me to stay out of the market as far as long. So I'm just going to stand on that and I'm going to trust that. That's not me missing out on a move. I could see the framework to a long, but I'm not willing to put money behind it. So I just have to listen to that discipline and stay still. Now, sometimes, I just hesitate on a certain model that I knew was going to happen. I hesitate on something. That's going to happen, man. You're a human. You're going to make mistakes. We're flawed human beings. That's why variance is... I rely on that so much, or at least keeps me calm, because to expect or anticipate that I'm going to be perfect all the time and never make mistakes every single day of the week, like, it's just impossible, man. Like, it's impossible. We're flawed creatures. Like, it's impossible to expect yourself to be perfect, never miss a move, never make mistakes. Jabbers? Exactly. So we're starting to see this drop lower in here. We'll see what that provides. Keep talking psych could really use you today. Yeah, I try my best to talk about psychology during trading because I know it helps a lot of you. Let me see what's happening here. So what would I report in there? I said, good job, CJ. I followed what I was supposed to be doing. I'm going to try this 15-second, and it would probably be above the first presented FEG, my stop. Because I want to see if we can get this expansion lower. If you look at your 15-minute, I'm going to have a little bit wider. I want to make it above that first presented if we use that as an inversion. 15-second, we're inside of these two sell-side imbalances. Otherwise, do we just range? Because it's proving to me that it's not willing to go higher. I like the 15-minute way we've reacted off of that imbalance in here. We've created relative equal lows. There's an inefficiency that's right there. I gotta make note of that. So we may retrace up into that. We still have the first presented FEG as kind of like a barrier. I may adjust this by just a tad bit. Could wick up into it or not. I will wait if we close underneath the 5-minute order bar. Yeah, and even the things that I enter, I mean, none of this is financial advice. I just, whatever I want to trade, I mean, if you follow along with it, that's fine. You should always listen to yourself and what you're seeing. I mean, you in and of itself are a variant, so you gotta follow your own variance. We'll see if we, I'll see the reaction we get after, if we get underneath the sell side here. But overall, I'd like to see if we can just get down into maybe the 50% of the opening range gap. And depending on the speed and volatility underneath that, I'll determine if I want to hold something. I like what the 15 minutes doing. It's creating a bearish order block there. I want to see underneath this low. I don't want to just see a stab underneath the low and then a rejection. I want to see a drop, closure, deep run underneath it. Because that is creating an SMT with ES, so you got to be aware of that. want to see some really deep closures. I want to see a deep run in here. I don't want to see any type of reaction as far as just taking these lows and then seeing a run higher. I want to see some deep runs in here pretty quickly. At least a run to this 5-minute buy side balance there. Up close candle here would be your bearish order block, so you've got to see a reaction off of that. So I don't love that reaction, and that's where I'm got to see this reaction off of this bearish order block here. Because all it could have been is just taking the sell side there with S&T at the low. So I'm going to hold out for it because I still do believe that we should seek lower prices today, but I could be completely wrong. It was too little for me to even take a partial, to be honest with you. So, and something like this could irritate you. Like, well, I was in profit, I could have taken a partial and now it's going to run in my stop. Again, that's variance of probabilities. It's just is what it is. I can see that we IOFED'd the hourly here. 15-minute. What I'm watching is the 1 minute. I want to see if there's a closure or not. Call me crazy, but I'm not biased long. Even with this reaction, this retracement. That's what I'm saying is the reaction or the closure off of that, and even the first presented, we're not closing above it. Even though we're wicking above it in a moment of time, it may be scary. It's not telling me to get out of the market. My stop's there for a reason. I pay it to do its job. But as far as reading it goes, it's a bit of a sloppy range. I mean, it's just. I think somebody asked, is this week like a good week? I mean, I think there's some good opportunities, but I mean, as far as what I've participated in, no. I don't think it's been great. I am using ES, thank you. I just stated 17 times there's an SMT. But SMT is just SMT. I'm watching this 5 minute. I want to see if we react off of it or not. I mean, if we ultimately send it higher today or we just stay in a range, then I'm probably done. My concern in here is if this thing is still going to seek lower prices, it could create an SMT in here where ES creates a higher high and then NQ ends up dropping. ES has a ton of sell side. I'll be crazy, but I want to put it above a 5 minute. We'll see if I just manually close it or not. Just want to see if this is going to be a wick above here or not. What do you mean, Igor? Fly, yeah. I mean, I'm really just worried. I'm not looking really at the 1 minute. I'm just paying attention to the 5 minute. If we close above that, then I gotta close the trade. It's very high resistance mass, just like yesterday. It's right inside of a range. It's again, this is variance of probabilities. I mean, I can semi-predict when certain ranges are going to unfold, but to operate in them, I mean, it's not fun, man. I'm going to manually close it. It's not respecting what I want. Yeah, there goes that. Again, when you look at variance and probabilities, I can't know when we're going to be inside of a shit range and when price is going to expand or not. So, if you look at yesterday's afternoon session, beautiful. Look at the AM session, terrible. It's been a back and forth week for me. Loss, win, loss, win. See, in this moment, does that feel good? Is that like a good feeling? No. Am I happy with it? Of course not. What is the correct action? Logically, if I was to logically look at this, say, well, obviously we're ranging. Price is not giving me what I want. Bad action is say, well, now I'm just going to reverse it. Since I got stopped, then it must be going higher, or I must go back in and get my money back. No. Even if you take multiple losses, this is where cumulative emotions come into play. It's like, if you take multiple losses, you have multiple days of shit price action, you have multiple weeks of shit price action. It's not fun, man. It's not a good feeling, and some people are going to say, well, you should be able to know what the market's doing at all time. It doesn't work that way. So, you just do nothing. Exactly. You do nothing. Like, I have to sit still. If I see price starts loosening up and it gives me something that I would want to operate in, then sure. Could I see the bullish bias out of this? I mean, maybe. Casper, it's actually good advice. Like, if you've had a really good week, there's no reason to push on a Friday. I mean, you have to have some type of profit goal, especially if you've done well. You don't want to keep pushing. What the fuck is that video? I was watching blackjack. Wick, this is a good question. It's a complicated question. Do you have to have the bias right or just the next draw liquidity to be right? Well, bias could be short term. When we talk about narrative is the overall picture of what price is really trying to draw towards. Then there's short term biases that price is going to draw to here so it can get to the next draw liquidity. See, price took out sell side so it could get to the next draw liquidity. I mean, you could be in line with both, or you could just have a short-term bias where prices, you're trading the retracement of an overall leg. What I'm watching and observing is really ES, man. It's way higher, man. Way, way higher. JH, what point did you in trading career did you find going with live funds? I don't remember. I don't remember, to be honest with you. It's so long ago. I'm sure it was very much quicker than. I didn't have ICT. I didn't start with him, so I think I probably put like $50 or $100 in a live account at one point. I probably blew that. I mean, real serious money, probably not till like a year or 2 years in. How many trades do you take on week? Just depends. Could be 3, could be 5, could be 10. Just depends. Ideally 3 to 5, Joshua, if that's an answer you're looking for. The reason I say that is because I understand most of the time consistent probability is not, there's weeks where every single trade I take is just a win. That's such a good feeling. It's great. But there's weeks where, I take a loss, 2 losses, and then the next trade makes back 50% of it. Then the next trade makes it back fully with some profit on top of it. That's what consistent profitability looks like at times. Or you just have a losing week. So far, this would be a losing week for me. It's not drastic, but it's not a winning week by any means. Even if I took another trade and it was a win, it still wouldn't even be, I'd probably be at break even. But again, you can look at that and be pissed off and say it's unfair, but you also have to look at the whole month, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the whole year. As long as you do the things correctly, eventually that'll be colored over. It's hard as a live streamer because a lot of people look at me day to day or week by week and they either see losses or wins or whatever it may be and they just base your performance off of that. But like, if you actually sat down for a whole year, and this is where track records come into play and you're able to put your track record out there, then you're able to base somebody's skill set off of it. Even your own. You can't look at your performance day to day or week by week and just be like, well, I'm a shit trader, I'm a good trader. No. You'll know your skill set by the end of the year. And be like, okay, this is where I'm really at. How much do you need to start a live account at NQ? It depends on the broker, but believe 1,000. We're about to come in on the macro. It's been a very lackluster morning session, and we've had a large movement prior to it. So, are you looking to sell off that FEG? No, but I would like to see the reaction off of it. We'll see. If we dig up higher, let's say into this inefficiency up here, bearish breaker there. Which broker you see is good? AMP is good. TradeAwait's good. Dorman Trades is good. There's if you just click on your trading panel, you'll see a lot of futures brokers and the reviews and stuff. Why are macros important? Macros are important, especially during consolidational periods, because they tend to speed price up. Not 100%, but I would say 75% of the time during this window of time from 10:50 to 11:10, usually starts some type of price run. It usually starts something. It puts some type of speed, especially if you've been consolidating and not doing a whole lot. As soon as you get into that macro, price starts moving. So that's why we pay attention to it and we want to look at it. Why did I note at 9:45 when you have a 1 at 9:30? You're saying the first presented? The first presented is never, it's always after 9:30. It's 9:31, 9:32. It cannot be 9:30. That's why the first presented is here. See, look at the candlestick. You have 9:29, 9:30, 9:31. That's incorrect. The first presented always, it has to be either 9:31, 9:32, or 9:33. That's your first time that it can actually be it. Yeah, if you want, I mean, that's why I like the ICT, this indicator. I have the indicator on, but that's why it's there. Pan deal trading. I mean, yeah. I think a lot of people especially get hooked on I can be biased overall short, but I could still take intraday swings or retracements long. Even though I'm biased overall on the higher time frame short, I could still be longing it intraday wise. There's intraday retracements. So it's just understanding where you're at. I mean, you have a bias and you try to frame that so you know where you're at, so you know if it's in a retracement or not, so you can take that intraday retracement. It's Mab and prop firm good. That's Forex or really indices, so. Perry, go back to the beginning of the live stream. That's where I discuss it. And the bias for me right now is do nothing. What is it doing? It's doing nothing. So sit still, wait for the macro, see if the macro gives anything. You think PM session could be better at lunchtime? I have no idea. I mean, that's like, again, variance of probabilities. I don't know these things, and I don't think anything within ICT's knowledge would allow me to know that. Like at one point, I talked about this last night, there comes a threshold of the certain knowledge that I know. I mean, I know everything from ICT. But I also don't know every single movement, every single fluctuation. I don't know when price is going to consolidate at times, when it's going to go into high resistance. I don't know these things. I don't know if when the PM session is going to be better than the AM session. There's certain characteristics and rules, but there's just days where there's no signal of that. It's outside of my knowledge range. It's outside of the things that have been revealed to me, or been really revealed to us. So you just have to work with what you have. So watch as we get into this macro, price starts kind of speeding up. What I'm watching is how ES just made this higher high, because that's a pretty significant SMT divergence, and that's a hard thing for me to trust if I was to go long. This here is a massive SMT divergence. That high ES just took out. So CJ, you really look like Chris Bumstead. That's a first. I've been called a lot of things, not Chris Bumstead. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Chris got a lot bigger beard, though. This is ugly, man. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Especially where emotions, if you take a loss, like you just start going into shitty price action, you're just setting money on fire for no reason. Musa, no, this is the best that I can give. I know you got a big ass beard. Yeah, this is the best I can get so far. Well, you can see the disconnect between like ES and NQ. There's just such a wild disconnect between the two right now. Which means what? It's not really... To me, that's not favorable. I don't want to be part of that. one or two things are going to happen. And it may not even happen today, but ES is creating a higher high, which is a bearish divergence, and that sends everything lower. Or NQ joins ES higher. Wanted to annotate the 1 minute here just for studying purposes, this version there. I'll probably sit on here for, I just want to see what ends up happening since I'm about to go on the weekend. I'll make it maybe a little bit longer. I'm just kind of chilling today. And if you're in the whole Discord, you know CJ signal's very real. As soon as I get off, price just expands. Can you show us future projections? Yeah. It's really just previous dealing ranges inversed. From this dealing range, low to high there, or that low to high. Negative 25, negative 50, negative 1. It's just inversing dealing ranges. What's your plan right now? Nothing. No plan. Tester. Sure. That's what I see a lot of in younger traders is like a lot of, I would say, overconfidence in a certain idea. For me, you know, when I say I don't know what price is doing, I think some people get confused. Because I find that as a strength. When I say I don't know what the hell price is trying to reach for, some people look at it and say, well, that doesn't sound good. To me, that's a strength because I'm not trying to force an idea. Yeah, and I see both sides of the market. That's another reason why I see two-sided arguments. last year I talked about very in depth of like, if you were a judge in a court case, you would just be trying to judge both sides of the argument. You're trying to judge bullish, trying to judge bearish. If you both see them equally, then there's no reason to act upon it. What's your favorite Zyn flavor? Peppermint. Okay, yeah. So we're drawing up into this imbalance here. I think somebody asked about the 15-minute. I do see a potential bearish order block and a potential inefficiency that's there. But on the flip side, again, when we're looking at arguments, that could be your bearish argument. The price is going up inside of this premium, inside of this inefficiency and bearish order block, right? On the flip side, you have ES, which is leading price right now. It's much higher. You can make the argument that we've dropped down, we've taken sell side, we displace higher, drop down into this inversion, displace higher, drop down this inefficiency, and we may want to head for that high up there. That could be an argument. Sarah, alright, I'll catch you later. Do you like the chocolate one? I've never tried it. Tried the coffee one, not chocolate. Casper. That's funny. How long have you been trading? 7 years. So since we closed above this high here, this up close candle would be your bullish breaker there. I'll take this away. Yeah, I'm a 2021 charter. I just want to take this away real quick. So I think you don't even look at Forex. I mean, I look at Forex for Confluences and stuff, but I don't trade it anymore. I used to. That was all I traded. What made you get into trading to begin with? That's a good question. I mean, I found it when I was in college, and I didn't want to pursue a career in college. So I dropped out. I just found this a lot more enjoyable, something that I could make unlimited capped money based off of a skill set with no boss, no job. The same reason I think anybody gets into this, man. To be honest with you. To make a lot of money and not work a job. Tomorrow, do you talk about psychology? Yeah, I have to do a psychology. I want to do like a podcast tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a live stream, and that way you guys can ask questions and stuff. Short it now, my Pookie. All right. JH. Yeah, I mean, luckily I had good parents who supported me and didn't really care that I dropped out. I mean, I think I started when I was 18, so it was really young. It depends where you're at in life, really. I mean, if you were young like that, or if you are young like that, I mean, it depends your current situation in life, really. To me, I knew that the risk was probably worth it. What was your major? I was studying criminology, which, I don't know, I just think college is a scam, man. I really do. I think there's very few limited fields you can go into and make your money's worth. And enjoy your job and enjoy your life and have freedom. And I mean, you can get me on a tangent as to why I'm not going to go into it, but why why I did this. Like, if I didn't do trading, I would have done something in terms of entrepreneurship. I would have always wanted to be my own boss, always. Some people thrive in that, some people don't. That's what I also, when I first began, hated on everybody that worked a job, but then I understood that some people like that sort of security and would rather just have that in their life, and that's okay too. But there's some people that are just wired differently, like me, that just want to take the full-on risk. Even if I've completely failed at this, I didn't care. I just said, well, I'd rather die knowing at least I tried. Also, I think some people don't have the discipline or really the self-accountability to hold themselves at this type of level. You have to be a little fucking psycho to do this, man. You have to be a little far gone. You're not all there. Like, most people can't endure the losses and the pain and the amount of years of just repetitively blowing accounts and making mistakes. And I mean, even being consistently profitable, you're enduring losses all the time. You're enduring it over and over. And you'll see that with me. Like, you'll see this was a losing week. We'll fast forward 3 months from now when wherever we're at. And overall, I put good money that I'm up on it. On whatever account. So it's a very much a mental game that I think some people are maybe meant for or not meant for. And that's okay. I mean, people have different purposes in the world. JH, I mean, I'm gonna tell them the same. I'm not gonna tell them to go to college. I'll tell you that. I mean, if that's what they want to do, of course. MIK Khan, yeah. My advice, especially in this community, is to pick, obviously ICT is your number one source of information. You want to directly take from the horse's mouth, or whatever the analogy is. It's always what I've ever done. I've only paid attention to what he said, and I never really veered off. I had some people that I followed, like, me as a mentor, or I had some other people that were a little bit further than me in the ICT development, but I always took what he said first, man. So what we've done here, we've dropped into this bullish breaker, this inefficiency. The reason I'm not really touching it is because I see both sides of the argument. I mean, we could just send this into this inefficiency here. Could I get a short scalp out of it? Sure, but it's not really favorable. I don't want to short it. I don't see anything favorable to do so. It's also the movement. There's no movement in here. This is not loose price action. This is very lethargic, high resistance. Yeah, fighters. I didn't know Monday's Martin Luther King Day. I mean, ES is just so disconnected if you look at it. I mean, it could be really leading NQ, and that's why I could see the idea of higher prices. But if you look at how high ES is in comparison, that to me is an unfavorable market condition. When these two are really doing something somewhat different than each other, I mean, that's not great. So, I mean, it's almost towards the end of the macro. I don't know what else I could see out of today, to be completely honest with you. I don't think much is going to happen. I'd probably rather just call it a week here. Not push anymore. That's what Fridays do to people, is they try to push to end off the week profitable, try to get their money back, whatever it may be, but that's just a dumb idea. So I'll see if anything loosens up here in like 5 minutes, but might just call it a week there and hang it up. Christopher, I remember you. Hope all is well. But I got you. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this week. I mean, you have to be willing to journal, especially on a Saturday. Tomorrow we'll talk about that in the psychology video, but you want to sit down, journal. Do not self-criticize yourself. It's the number one thing that I've learned in journaling, is do not self-criticize yourself. Do not call yourself names. Do not say, I could have done this, this, and this. Cheerlead yourself. Make positive reinforcements. And we'll talk about all that tomorrow. So enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll be back here probably on Monday of next week, since it's a holiday, and I'll have to do the weekly forecast then. So peace out, everybody. Be safe.